Right, my name is J.Hamilton. Core Resonance Colonies is what we're doing here. And I want to introduce Esther. How do you pronounce your last name?
Henselmans.
Henselmans. I want to make sure I had that right.
Yeah.
So you were one of the members of our first colony, which you probably discovered to be a very powerful idea and expression.
Yes.
What would you say caused you to be part of this? How did you become attracted to it in the first place?
I think the attraction it started out with a group of people that I'm comfortable with, so ready to work with together and to do something special. And then I think the first meeting we had was together with you, and you explained what it was. And I thought that was really interesting, experimental for me, something new, yeah, and very interesting to do.
Do you recall your first impression of what you thought it was?
In the beginning, the very first, it was complicated a little bit because I couldn't envision the process and exactly what we're going to do. I'm a very hands-on person, so as soon as we started, I had the idea started, and I understood, like, oh, it's me with my brain doing something or doing nothing. The concept which you explained in the beginning of no resistance, I didn't capture that yet in the beginning. It was only when we started working with it that I started to understand. I see what's happening.
So you started to move into it, it all started to come together.
In the beginning, I think I captured it intellectually.
Right.
And that was different than when we started to work with it, because then you started to feel it.
So the essence of what we're doing, or what a colony is 6 people sharing the ownership of proprietary neurofeedback to rapidly quiet the nervous system, to enable our natural state of connection with the cosmos, and actually learn how to develop a partnership by letting go, by refining the nervous system. And so we started with the Longview protocol. So do you remember how that was for you when you started it and what it's come to be?
It was very interesting, yes. So the Longview was actually, we worked with our brain in a way. And I remember, I haven't done it for a little while, but I remember putting everything here in my frontal lobe, and then I could play with it. I felt I could move things around, and I could make space. I make more space. The Longview itself, I was watching several clips of graphics kind of stuff, and then you play with the modules because you can react based on the feedback you get from the system. So positive feedback, if it was like some of the movements are higher, gives you more, meant that I knew, oh, I'm here now, or I feel like more dropped in my heart, that it was a good, it felt good, so it was a positive feedback that I received. So that's how I continued.
So if you were to look at it, would you say that it's a fancy introspective experience where you start to learn about your brain, different parts of your brain, and how by activating part of your brain you can see results on the screen?
That's right, yeah. And then outside of the screen, of course, is the purpose, but on the screen is the work that I was doing, that I could work with that. And then outside I felt I could actually use those same techniques and moments that I felt I can expand myself. For me, the expansion of the brain and the room in there was the best feeling.
Started to influence your outcomes?
It started because I had my decision making then didn't become so angled, so tunnel viewed. It became more wider, a bigger perspective.
More allowing?
More allowing, yes. More angles. Okay, it's really the tunnel vision. I feel that became wider. Yeah.
So you touched on what you've accomplished with just the Longview, but could you just expand that just a tiny bit?
Can you repeat that a little bit?
Well, the Longview has been a primary protocol that we've been doing. Sharp was added later.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of realizing that the Longview protocol has even more characteristics than I thought.
Yes.
The Longview has to do with the prefrontals. The prefrontals are the part of you. The prefrontals is the human being part of you. This part of your brain, everybody has. Everybody but trees, I suppose. But all the animals have this kind of brain, and the prefrontals is humans, and there's a few other animals that have them. But it's what allows you to extend. It's where the visionary mode comes from. And I'm wondering, you say that the tunnel vision kind of faded, but there's examples in your life where the long view has influenced?
Yes, so if I compare with, let's say, when I started, I had a, well, for me, tumultuous time.
Okay.
So in whatever was happening in my life, without going too much into detail, was I took a lot of things personal, I think. And so with decision making, you make it small because it's everything impacts me. And I think I could withdraw from that I made it wider and start to see more the bigger picture. I do remember like going to the sessions, that coming out of a session for a while good, and then my old behavioral things would get in again, you know, start again. So I would have to repeat it. Kind of. So it was a
learning curve?
A learning curve, and you need to do it. And I think it really needs to, slid in your brain that it does that by itself at some point. Am I totally there? I think I'm still working on that because we're also doing a lot of other practice. But I think I got that piece of it. So the understanding and then the working with it was there.
Okay, that's great. So we all started, the whole colony started with the Longview protocol, which is the prefrontals, and again, a very important part of the brain. It's the part that makes us human. We started moving into this part of the brain, which you might say, you know, the animal brain, or the part this part of the brain is how you sit in your chair.
Right.
This part of your brain is how you think and how you devise ideas and insights. We started working with the SHARP protocol, and that was different. And can you explain a little bit of your sense of the SHARP protocol?
Yeah. In the beginning, it was a little challenging because I kind of found from the long view going into your frontal lobe and doing things was fun to do. So then now I'm in SHARP, watching a video that was interesting, or different video with input. The same sentiment there, that you can see whatever we had a cap on. I have to explain it. Shall I explain this?
Sure.
Okay. So right, we put a cap on with certain nodes connected to your head with a little glue in there, or a little, not glue, but a little substance. So and then we connected it to a battery. So you
Well, an amplifier.
amplifier.
Actually.
Thank you. An
Right.
amplifier, and the amplifier then makes it connect to the system. So again, you get the feedback. This time the feedback is a little different because, first of all, it was more do nothing, just listen. And in the beginning it was tough because there were very interesting videos. So my thoughts start flying as soon as something comes up. So then also what happens, the video starts flickering a lot. But you want to see the video. So it was like quieting, don't do anything, just be quiet in your mind, just watch, just take in. For me, it was the taking in, not doing anything.
And at the same time, the exercises put the mind aside and let the brain have the experience without the mind trying to run the show.
Exactly.
Which takes a number of sessions to even successfully get that.
Yes, that took me
For which
several.
then it starts to open up.
Yeah. And then I feel like you start to crave it. It's a kind of a craving feeling of, once you have that down, I feel, I sat there and it's like, you just want to have that peace. Because like you're at peaceful, yet you get information in and you're not doing anything. So I thought that was really interesting. I do, like say, I have moments still that the flickering is still a lot. And then you almost, then the thinking comes in, like why is this flickering? But then I feel like you drop to your heart, you don't think, and you get in there again into that quiet zone, that you just listen and everything gets a little bit more peaceful. What I also wanted to mention, I feel over the time, and I am not sure when the particulars, but in this group, in the group that we worked with, the synchronicity that started working. But you might want to ask before I start talking about that.
Well, let me just say, and synchronicity is a really important idea, but let me just say that when we're working with the neurofeedback, there is no programming whatsoever. The electrodes on the scalp are not putting anything into the brain. They're more like microphones, and all they do is pick up the electromagnetic frequency of the brain firing. It goes into the amplifier, and it's sent into the computer as feedback. And so as you're doing these exercises and putting the mind aside, the brain starts to see the results of learning how to do the exercise and seeing the rewards of the feedback, and it learns how to do things. And what we're really doing is giving the brain exercise so it can find its boundaries. The different parts of the brain and the different frequencies of the brain become more boundaried or defined, and basically the brain runs better and less resistance and less reactionary stuff. So jumping to synchronicities, that's really a lot of what we're doing. We use the daily sessions log to document our experiences, and when we come back, the first thing we do is identify what we've discovered since the last session as synchronicity, harmony, and order. And it's become a very large component of doing this as a group. And in fact, I've discovered what I've called synchronicity, harmony, and order for years. As it bumps up, I'm starting to call it coherence. And coherence is when you're starting to get close. We're really getting out of the way, and the scale of the order of it all starts to become available. And this is what everybody's discovering, and what makes this first colony actually so very successful, because we're getting it and it's occurring. You want to touch on ideas like that for yourself?
On the synchronicity?
Sure.
So I feel there are moments that I also drew on the group. Because we worked together and we all did this. So when some had more, maybe some time to spend in there, that would be my explanation maybe. But I felt the synchronicity level for me went exponentially more up than I would have expected. So in a work situation, not that I intended it necessarily, but there was a lot of work coming to me. Multiple people that I hadn't worked with for a while came around the corner with work. So in that affluence is there. It's not a word, it's just there. So the trust as well. On a personal level, with relationships, I feel that I also drew on the group in a sense.
Intentionally, or it was just naturally there?
I think it's a natural. I think it's a natural how that came. And then when I started to realize it, then of course it does come up in you. It's consciously it comes up. But that from the reactionary, that's kind of also going to the long view, back to the long view, where I had that definitely in that period of time. Over the time working with the long view and the sharp and the group, the reactionary part is way less. I'm more of an observer now of things. An observer, and then not taking personal, being the observer. So then whatever happens doesn't impact you as much emotionally. And
less reaction.
Yeah, less reaction. So it's more peaceful. With that, I felt I went on to having better focus, because you're not frazzled in your mind. So I feel I really got to a place now, I'm not saying 100%, but where I have a much less frazzled mind. I can focus, whether that is work, whether that is on certain people, conversations, decisions that I need to make, or just having peace of mind for when I need that, rest. So that's a really big plus.
So letting go works?
For me, yes. Letting go is the thing. Absolutely.
Letting go works.
It's the goal is be free in the mind. Still be able to think, but be free, and let things flow. Trust it, having no resistance to what the universe gives you.
Not blocking it.
Don't block
by being
it.
in resistance, right?
Yes.
It's there.
Yeah.
So what we discovered with this colony, an intentionist colony, is 6 people sharing the ownership of proprietary neurofeedback to rapidly quiet their nervous system, knock down the static and the noise, such that that subtle connection with the cosmos not only becomes evident, but grows. And the only thing that keeps that from happening is resistance. And actually, my world says resistance and the mind are the same thing. In fact, resistance, time, and mind are all synonymous. Without resistance, you don't have time. When you're in presence, there's no time. And so the idea is, by refining and quieting the nervous system, again, no programming whatsoever, the brain finds itself, the brain cleans itself up by giving it exercises. It quiets down. Your nervous system is like a living antenna system that connects with the cosmos, and as you build this connection, it starts coming back down through you, and that's where the scale of the order starts getting interesting. And we're all doing this, and we're all on first base heading towards second base, if you don't mind. But there's a scale of order that we're expressing and we're documenting, each of us.
Yeah.
And any other thoughts before we?
I'm excited to do more programs, because so far we've done the long view and the sharp. I've done the long view and the sharp. Some others in the group went a little further, but I'm very excited to feel that more. If I have more results with the no resistance, I'll be thrilled, to say in the least. So I'm very excited for that.
Let me add one comment. As we quiet the nervous system and knock down the static and the noise, or as it falls away, our natural state of connection with the cosmos becomes enabled. Unconditional love and no resistance to your maker is one and the same. And your nervous system is that connection, but everybody's nervous system is on massive overload, and in overload, all we do is resist and react because we can't take in anymore. So as you quiet the nervous system, the whole world opens up on a very big scale.
Yeah.
And this is what we're playing with and practicing and documenting and learning about.
I love it. Thank you.
So, very nice to have you as a guest, and we will continue, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Jen.
you.
Thank you.
for being here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.